Egypt has strongly condemned Israel's repeated attacks on Lebanese and Syrian territories, viewing them as blatant violations of their sovereignty, international law, and UN resolutions. In a statement by the Foreign Ministry, Cairo emphasized the critical importance of respecting both nations' sovereignty and territorial integrity, rejecting any interference in their internal affairs. That comes as these ongoing Israeli violations exacerbate regional tensions, undermining stability amid crucial Egyptian-backed international de-escalation efforts. Syria has vehemently condemned Israel's treacherous strikes on government institutions and civilian sites in Damascus and Suwayda, causing civilian deaths, injuries, including women and children, and severe infrastructure damage. The Syrian Foreign Ministry added that this deliberate aggression aims to incite chaos, undermine security, and violates the UN Charter and international humanitarian law. The statement added that Syria holds Israel fully accountable for this dangerous escalation and asserts its right to self-defense under international law. The Syrian Foreign Ministry urges the international community, especially the UN Security Council, to take immediate action to halt Israel's repeated aggressions against Syria's sovereignty. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio voiced deep concern over Israeli strikes on Syria, saying that Washington is actively engaging with relevant parties to help reduce tensions. Speaking today, Secretary Rubio said that he had just finished calls with involved parties regarding the recent Israeli strikes on Syrian territory. He stressed that the U.S. is very concerned about the situation and is working to address it urgently. The remarks come as clashes erupted between Syrian government forces and local Druze fighters shortly after a ceasefire was announced. Rubio reiterated that Washington seeks an immediate end to the fighting and promised further updates as diplomatic efforts continue. Israel has released footage of airstrikes on Damascus targeting Syria's defense ministry as tensions escalate over attacks on Druze communities in the south. Today, powerful airstrikes shook Damascus as the Israeli military said it struck Syrian defense ministry sites. The Israeli army stated that the strikes aimed to stop Syrian government forces from attacking Druze communities in southern Syria and demanded their immediate withdrawal. Footage released by the Israeli military showed what it claims are precision strikes on key targets in the Syrian capital. The escalation underscores rising regional tensions as Israel vows to continue operations to protect Druze populations and deter further Syrian military actions. Syrian forces clashed with Druze fighters in Suwayda today as shelling forced residents to shelter indoors and authorities warned of further violence. Syrian security forces were seen checking vehicles at checkpoints across Suwayda after being deployed to the region on Monday to stop fighting between Druze fighters and Bedouin armed men. Instead, government troops ended up in direct clashes with Druze militias. Local outlet Suwayda 24 reported heavy artillery and mortar fire hitting the city and nearby villages early on Wednesday. Syria's defense ministry, through state news agency SANA, blamed outlaw groups for violating the truce and urged residents to remain indoors. Many residents said that they were trapped at home without electricity, fearful of venturing outside. The spiritual leader of Israel's Druze community, Muwaffaq Tarif, has demanded striking the Syrian regime to force its withdrawal from Suwayda, calling the conflict existential. He affirmed the commitment of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz to act. Meanwhile, Syria's Druze spiritual leader urged regional and international intervention to calm Suwayda. Katz vowed continued Israeli strikes on Syrian forces until they retreat, warning of escalated responses if ignored. Recent clashes reignited between Syrian government troops and local Druze fighters shortly after a ceasefire announcement. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar has stated that Israel is actively working to eliminate threats against its security in southern Syria. He accused the Syrian regime of hostile actions targeting minorities and emphasized Israel's firm stance against any harm to the Druze community in Syria. He underscored the desire to maintain the current status quo along the Syrian border and affirmed Israel's commitment to defending the Druze to bolster its own national security.
Have names and faces. We demand that they stand trial for their crimes against.
Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has declared that warning messages to Damascus have ended and harsh strikes will now be executed. Katz affirmed the military's commitment to operate forcefully in Suwayda province in Syria. The Israeli defense minister vowed to destroy all the forces that attacked the Druze community until they fully withdraw. Israel's stance signals a significant escalation in its military campaign aimed at securing Druze safety and pressuring Syrian government forces to retreat from the region.
והסינואר השני יחריב אותה לחלוטין. תקיפת חיל האוויר נגד מחבלי החמאס הייתה רק הצעד הראשון. ההמשך יהיה קשה בהרבה.